Story time about a bumper. A couple weeks ago, I ordered a bumper for my car online, and I found the right color code. I made sure it was the right a model car that I'm buying the bumper for. And earlier this week, a box showed up at my door, and it was from carparts.com. It had to be my bumper that I ordered, and it was a lot smaller of a box than I was expecting the bumper to my car to be. And so my first thought was, oh my word, I ordered the wrong part. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy to deal with how to return this thing. And if I bought the wrong thing, thinking it was the right thing, how am I going to buy the right thing? And my mind started going this spiral of everything that could go wrong and how difficult it's going to be to fix the problem. And so I put the box in the garage, and it sat in the garage for 3 or 4 days. And every time I looked at the box, I thought, I made a mistake. I don't know how to deal with it, so I'm just going to ignore it. I made a mistake. I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to ignore it. And I recognize that this has been a pattern for me for a lot of my life in a lot of areas where instead of facing the problem, facing the conflict, and figuring out a solution to it, I just found it easier, that's a relative term, to just ignore the problem until I had to deal with it. Because I didn't want to face, ultimately, it's because I didn't want to face the fact that I might have done something wrong. Because what I used to tell myself was, if I did something wrong, that means that I was wrong. If I messed up, that means I am messed up. And obviously that doesn't have to be true, but I used to think those things were one and the same. I messed up, therefore I am messed up. So as it turns out, I opened the box today for the bumper, and let me show you what I found. This is what I found. A bumper that was folded in thirds, basically. So apparently you buy a bumper online, and they ship it to you. They fold it up into thirds, and then you got to set it out in the sun where it heats up, basically, and the plastic kind of expands back to its original shape. So I ordered the right part. I did not make a mistake. My first assumption was that I made a mistake. I never thought to myself, hey, maybe there's a reason that the bumper looks smaller than it was. And even if I made a mistake, I didn't want to face it right away. And so this default mode of thinking for me was, I made a mistake. I don't know how to deal with it. Therefore, I'll ignore it. In a lot of areas of my life, I'm starting to catch myself early in the process instead of just letting that story run its course. But sometimes, like with this bumper, that story creeps up without me realizing it. But it's when I catch myself and say, oh, I'm playing the story out where I made a mistake and I don't know how to deal with it. The fact of the matter is, I do know how. I can begin figuring out how to deal with it. And so this bumper is just, it's a funny little reminder to me that sometimes an old story, I had 30 plus years, 35 years of telling myself the story that I don't know how to deal with problems and therefore I'll ignore them. It's easier to ignore them until I have to deal with them. And as I'm working through telling myself a different story that I can deal with problems, there's a benefit in dealing with problems early. There's a benefit in working through conflict early on. Conflict just gets worse the more we let it go. Problems get bigger the longer we let them go. And as I'm putting in the reps and the exercise and exercising that muscle of facing my problems head on right away, sometimes an old story creeps up and I keep my bumper in the box for 4 or 5 days because I don't want to face the fact that I might have messed up with it. Well, as it turns out, there's an alternative reason why the box was small, and it's not that I messed up. It's because carparts.com decided to fold a bumper into thirds. How cool is that? So if you find yourself, like me, ignoring problems because you don't know how to deal with them, I'll step in here and say, I didn't know how to deal with them because I never started thinking about how to deal with them. I just was a blind eye. I don't know. And now I realize, hey, I can begin to solve the problem. I don't have to know the entire answer from the beginning. All I need to do is believe that I can figure it out. Believe that I can get help. Believe that I can ask for advice. Believe that I can. And once I believe that I can start dealing with a problem, then I deal with a problem. And it's usually never as big as I think that it is. Hey, Matt. Happy Saturday evening. So my encouragement here is old stories no matter how much we work through changing the story, old stories sometimes pop up. And if they do, that's okay. We get to continue working through them. And it's a continual reminder to me that I can solve problems. I can deal with conflict. Ignoring a problem only makes a problem worse. And so, again, a reminder as always, stepping in to solve a problem is part of the work that we do in life. And I'll remind myself here of this also. It's only a problem if I call it a problem. It's a situation. That's all. It's a situation, and we can work through the situation. Calling it a problem already puts me in the mindset that now I've got to solve something. Huh. Maybe not. It's just a situation, and we can work through it. So it's a situation. We can work through it, and I fully believe that I can work through anything that comes my way. It might be hard. Matt reminded me the other day, there's a difference between doable and pleasant. Is that right, Matt? I think I got those words right. Between what's doable and pleasant. Dealing with conflict is not necessarily pleasant, but it certainly is doable. And we can always do hard things. So have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.